overreaction.
What's up, you guys? Happy... Oh, it's only Tuesday. It's episode 47. Can you guys believe we've been doing this almost 50 days in a row since quarantine?
No, it's more impressive. The fact that we've done this 47 days, or we've been in quarantine for 47 days.
Yeah. So, on that note, we are not going to be doing videos moving forward on Saturdays and Sundays because we need some boundaries. Hello, Mr. Nate. Well, not that we need some boundaries. Maybe we'll do them on Saturdays, but we decided we need to have...
Chris, what's up, sir?
We decided we need a little day of rest and recovery. So, when you guys come on, give us hello. So, if you caught us yesterday, which I know Nate, you did because you're our super fan. We appreciate you. We were talking about how to stop asking doubting questions. And I told you today that we were going to talk about resistance versus dissonance. So we're actually going to do that. It was funny though. I was like, what are you talking about today? And Braden's like, what'd you say yesterday? I'm like, oh yeah. So, just go. Okay. All right, guys. So I think the biggest thing, hey, Rosie, the biggest thing to understand, you guys, is that when we were talking yesterday, we were talking about making decisions from our head, right? And so making decisions based out of what our logical brain thinks we should do and what our logical brain wants us to do. And the thing that we've seen and that I've learned is that most of us need to not make decisions from that place because our brain is rooted in fear, right? So it's actually understanding how do we get into our bodies, because our bodies hold the answers, right? And that was something that I never understood. I was at war with my body. Like, I didn't want to listen to it. I did make big decisions based on my intuition, but I didn't know how to make other decisions based on the signals my body was giving me. So first and foremost, we have to be able to drop into our bodies. We have to be able to actually listen to the signals and the sensations and what our body is able to tell us before we can do any of this, right? I've talked about this before with eating. People are like, well, I want to intuitively eat. And I was like, if you don't have any connection to your intuition and you actually don't have, you haven't put those pieces together, it's impossible to do that, okay? So the first step of this is first we have to learn how do we get into our bodies and what does that actually look like so then we can decode the signals versus always just listening to our brain. Something you want to say?
Keep on rolling.
Okay.
I have something to say, but I'll let you kind of...
He looked like he was ready. So sometimes we never know what we're gonna say, you guys. We haven't figured that out. So it's just the cues of like, is he like leaning in and wanting to talk? So first thing, you guys.
You go 90, she comes 10.
We love that movie. So first thing, you guys, is how do we create a connection to our body, right? So if you listen to me at all, obviously, you know, I facilitate breath work. I'm a huge believer in meditation or intention setting or just something where you can actually create a calm environment where you can get out of your head and you can actually get into your body and you can start to understand what those signals are, right? So whether it's, you know, setting an intention, listening to quiet music, just being in a place where you're quiet and you're calm so that you can do something then just listen to the thoughts in your head, okay? So once you do that, then you start to understand that your body is giving you signals, right? So do me a favor, think about a time. Have you ever had a time where you're like, I just had a gut instinct, right? Just had a gut instinct. Did you ever have one of those?
Yes.
Thought maybe you would tell us. All right, Brandon's not playing along today. He's just here to look pretty. So, so gut instinct decisions, right? Like I know for me, like when I made the decision to join the program that I joined a couple years ago, there was absolutely no logical reason I should be doing this. I did not have time. I did not have $12,000. Like I did not have any of those things. And I knew I had to, right? Like I was like, this is actually the thing I need in my life to actually see my life change. And I'm done and I can't diet anymore and I can't hate my body anymore and I'm doing this, right? And I was just like, yeah, let's do it. I'll figure it out. But there was a gut like pull, right? For me, it was a pull and a pull to do that. So when you can feel that, like probably most of us have done it at least once in our life. I just had a bad feeling, don't walk down that alley. I just knew that person was the one. Whatever it is, we've had those feelings, right? And so what resistance is, you guys, is resistance is actually something you need to push past. So sometimes we get this instinct like, oh, I should do that. I should join that program. I should go to that gym. I should start with that coach. I should quit my job. I should do whatever, right? You're like, you're pulled, your highest self is pulling you towards something. And then your brain's like, no. Like that's a bad idea. Let's look at all of this logically. That makes no sense. Of course you should not do that, right? And so what we have to understand is that resistance is actually something you need to see past, because the other side of resistance is growth. So like when you're like, oh, but I'm getting all the like butterflies and like excitement, but yeah, I don't know, like, right? So like there's a little bit of that, like, I know I want to, but I don't know if I can or I should, right? That's resistance, okay? Dissonance is like somebody asks you something and you just get this like to me, it's like a thud in my belly, and it's like, no, right? Like, that is not the coach for me. That is not the program for me. Absolutely no way, right? Like you just know in your core and in your soul, that is not for me. That is not in alignment for where I'm going. This is a no, right? And so when I teach clients, we teach clients a lot how to like get into their bodies and how to understand the signals. The easiest thing you guys can do, and you just grab some meditation music. I think I have one on this too. If you want the meditation, I'll send it to you. But grab some music, get in a quiet place, breathe into your body, and then you ask yourself really obvious questions, right? So like I would ask myself questions that were yeses. Is my name Courtney? Do I live in Denver, Colorado? Do I have 2 children, right? Like, and then you listen for your body. So take some listening to your body. Your body gives you answers of yes, right? And then ask no questions. Is my name Brandon? Am I a guy? Do I live in Chile, right? Like questions that your body's like, well, obviously not. I don't know where Chile came from.
Questions that you go to?
No, but like things that like are obviously, there's no like, well, maybe my name is Brandon, maybe I live in Chile, but like, and then you listen to those signals, and then you start to go through and you start to go, okay, as you're going through life, like, can you learn to make little decisions, not just big decisions from your gut? And then you start to go back and forth between, okay, what is my body telling you, right? Like that is a pillar of sensation. Your mind is also a pillar of sensation, right? So being able to listen to those two and then balance them out and go, okay, is this thing right for me? Is this not right for me? What's the right answer? And when we answer from our body, that's from our intuition and from our higher being, versus answering from our head, which is usually answering from fear. And I think my children are killing each other downstairs. If you could hear our house right now, I don't know what they're doing. The dog is with us, so that's good. But they're like running around like crazy people. So we usually go on our walk and then we go live. And today we did it opposite, which is probably a bad choice. So if that makes sense, you guys, if that doesn't make sense, drop me a comment. If it makes sense, drop me a 1, or a smiley face. If it doesn't make sense, give me a confused face or a 2. So what we want you guys to understand is that so often in life, we've made decisions simply based on this, right? Our brain says, this makes sense, this is logical, this is what I should do. But really the big decisions in life any of the decisions shouldn't be made from your head. They should be made from your intuition, because your intuition knows the answer. Your body always knows the answer. It's really weird when you go, I'm like, oh no, who am I talking to? Because I think I feel like I talk to Brandon all the time. So so that's the difference between resistance and dissonance. Resistance we want to push past so that we make the decisions that allow us to grow. Dissonance are just the solid, no, that is not for me. That's cool, that's for you. You can have that job, you can join that program, do whatever. That's not my jam. Does that make sense?
I think it was.
Would you like to say anything to say?
Tap on that. Sorry, Skylar she's tired. She's at the end of her rope and was going crazy out there. So why is this so important, you guys? Is because, from what the environment in which we've been around for 20 years is oftentimes, from our experience, especially nowadays, the hot word that's going, your computer in there. I don't. The hot word that goes around nowadays is mindset, right? Like, you need to improve your mindset. You need to do all these things, like mindset. You need a growth mindset. You need a vertical mindset. You need, the caveman mindset. You need all these different things, and it's very hot word, social media taglines, all these things that go in with it, when it's really the understanding that you have all the answers, right? Like you hold all the answers, and you have all the intuition that is there to guide you. It's just whether or not you're willing to listen and read the signals that are there for us, right? And so
figuring out if you have the ability to listen.
Yes, and the reason why I think this is important is because, somebody that I follow on social media who I hold in high regards, as they're an idol legend in the CrossFit space, and they're a phenomenal athlete and also has built themselves to be an amazing coach. And they wrote a post yesterday that was talking about, the ability of people doubting them and always having the deck stacked against them and all these kind of things, but at the same time learning to control your thoughts, right? Like that was the message in which they posted this behind there. Now, what's the reality that you can control your thoughts? If I told you not to think of a white elephant, what are you thinking of? right? Like you can control your thoughts, right? You can be the observer of your thoughts, right? You can shift your thoughts, but you can't control your thoughts. You can't tell yourself not to think of something, because with the second you tell yourself not to think of that, you start to think of that. And yet again, we talked about that yesterday. Thinkers think and finders find. And so when I'm telling myself not to think of something, I'm going to think of that. And so my brain's going to find more of that in my life, right? And so the reason why it's important to dive into and have a better understanding of what Courtney just illustrated on there is your body has all the answers, right? And it's being able to understand that most of us, we like to think that we're functioning from an intellectual level. But what the issue is with that is because, yet again, through evolution of 2 million years to keep us on this planet, is to keep us safe, is we've neglected and removed ourselves from our body and just like to function from this thing on here, right? And so the part that we always try to do, that you may have heard this, and the part that we always say is, as long as you stay in your head, you're dead, right? And it's learning to understand that connection between your mind, your body, and your soul is what's going to allow you to be and live at the highest, best version of yourself. It's when we neglect and we separate ourselves from those two things, right? Like there's the body, there's the soul, right? Like you can believe in whatever it is that you want to believe in, but usually that's when we talk about the aspect of ego coming into the equation, not based off of like I'm better than you, but ego is essentially the separation of me as an individual from my soul, right? And through some point in our life, we do that just on a natural evolutionary aspect. But when we really allow ourselves to come back into that and understand that I am one through all of these things, and I facilitate and gravitate off of all these things, right? Like it's energy, which is why we've come up with shift of understanding that every aspect revolves around and communicates and corresponds with another. We do that with ourself as well. And so by being able to better understand that connection is really what's going to allow you to experience and then also have the answers for yourself, and not feeling like, well, I always do this and I always end up right in the same spot. Well, yet again, how many times do you have to put your hand on the stove before you realize that it's hot, right? Like sooner or later, those lessons are going to come up and teach you something, so long as you're willing to actually listen and read the signals.
Yeah, and I mean, like what Brandon said is that it's important here is like we're not disconnected, right? Like nothing happens in our life that only affects one thing, right? And like so when you have a feeling, when you have a sensation, then there's a thought, right? They happen like at the same time, thought, feeling, sensation, and there's a feedback loop, right? And so the loop is what's so important, because when you can notice awareness, like we talked about yesterday, when you can notice, oh, I had this thought, it gave me that sensation, gave me this thought, gave me that sensation, you can go, okay, hold up, we can stop the feedback loop, right? We can break the pattern, and then we can go, okay, is that true, right? Our 3 favorite questions. Is that true? Is it real? Is it mine? And then you can start to really say, okay, so I had that thought, but I know it's not true. So then you shift the sensation, right? Or when you have a sensation in your body and you're like, oh, that's calling me. I know I need to do that. Why is my brain saying that's a bad idea? That's a bad idea, right? Because your brain may have evidence that like that's not logical, but then you get to decide, you get to choose, right? We talk about choice all the time. You get to choose, does that serve me? Does that not serve me? Is my brain trying to keep me safe? Yes. And you get to say, hey brain, that's awesome. I appreciate it. I know that you're trying to keep me safe, but actually this is good, right? And like Brandon said, when like your body's never going to give you the wrong answer, right? And you've got to get out of your head. So this is my invitation. And I was talking to somebody today, 2 people actually, that don't know that I coach breath work. And I'm like, swear we throw everything on social media, and sometimes I think you guys are sick of it, but clearly not everyone's seeing it. So I facilitate breath work Saturday mornings at 7 o'clock via Zoom. So you can be anywhere in the world. They're free. You can donate if you want. That's not the point of it. But the point is I'm going to facilitate you actually getting into your body so that you can start to heal, so that you can actually start to feel and embody what we're telling you right now, not just know it, right? Because knowledge is power, sort of. Knowledge is not power until you take action.
It's potential.
Right, power. It's potential power. So taking action, embodying the things and actually going, oh my gosh, I did actually just make this decision. Like, example for us, when I was going through this and we were talking about intuition, I knew that I had made some really big major life decisions based on intuition. But I didn't make little decisions based off that. And so Carson was in kindergarten. She was getting ready to go to kindergarten. We had just gone to soccer And I found out that she was going from like this 1 hour a week inside thing, and all of a sudden she was old enough that it was going to be two practices a day plus a game. She was in gymnastics for an hour and a half at a time. She'd been going to school for 3 hours, and then the next year she's going to go kindergarten. It was going to be 5 hours. And I was like, my baby just went from like kind of doing some stuff to being in college to having like school every day and an activity every night. And I was like, this is too much. I can't do this. And I remember my gut was like 3 days a week of school makes more sense. And I just made the decision. Like I made my decision, and obviously then I called Brandon and he was on the same page, but it was like, that was such a cool illustration. So what I would offer to you guys is like, well, see if you can listen to your intuition in the next couple days and see what shows up for you, and then pay attention to what's actually happening, right? Because as you're learning stuff, you'll be like, wow, the universe just like showed that to me and I just learned it. It's because you're aware of it and you're like, oh, there's a different way to make decisions. So it's such a cool thing. And Chris, thank you for that. So Chris has done breathwork with us a lot. I think there's a thing for guys that it's harder to do breathwork. It's harder to surrender. So if you want any, you should come do breathwork. Hit Chris up. I'm just throwing you into the bus there, my friend. But Chris shows up almost every week and is having just amazing changes with that. So
it's funny you said that, because I was thinking about another story, just on that sense of, because yet again, I think for all of us, when we start kind of digging deeper, we can all maybe find references in our own life that bring these up. I was thinking about the old Carl's Dairy building, right? Yeah. Like years ago, I think, 5-6 years ago, like we had the ability, we were right on the fringe of, actually, if you're familiar with North Glen area, we were actually going to be, when unfortunately Carl's Dairy went out of business, we were going to be the next business in there renting it. And it's right on, like, it's an awesome location for us, right? Like us as a gym, we're right on 120th, like dead center. Everyone knows Carl's Dairy, like they know where that building is, and it was going to be a big stretch for us, right? Like we were going to have to do a lot of things that we were normally not going to be required to do in order for us to be able to afford that, right? But we were all about it, right? Well, I was more about it than she was, right? And so, as the deal went on, like there was kind of more and more things that were coming up, and it's like, you know what? There's things that are there, like the little itty bitty things, there's little thorns that are like, maybe that's just not right, maybe this, but the logical brain was like, no, this is what you want, right? Like this is going to be amazing, right? Like how you might be able to relate this on a relationship standpoint, right? Like you have all these signs and signals that are coming up, like, no, that's no big deal. We can learn to deal around that. You just want it that bad. Yes.
So you choose to ignore them.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
and so as things went on, obviously, then we went through other things. I won't dive in too much. But all of a sudden, it was like, I was driving back to our current location where the gym is at. And it was like, I called Courtney. And it's like, you know what? Well, you called me.
Yeah, I was like, that's right. No, you came home.
No, I came home. I remember the feeling on this. Yes, I remember the feeling of driving by there, right? Because it was on our way to our condo where we were at. So I got to drive by there every single day. And it was like the initial phase of like, this is going to be so awesome. Like, I can't believe we're going to have like this prime location where it's at, right? And then as time went on, and then I ended up coming home one night, and she kind of, the way we always did, she kind of welcomed me of like, I'll let you go through it since you have it.
Well, I just remember I was sitting at the counter and I was like, we can't do this. Like, we can't do this. Like, and when I thought about it, like my stomach felt like it was like falling out. And I was like, we can't do this. And then I was like, I have to tell him we can't do this. And I hadn't been super on board the whole time. I'd had some weird feelings about it, but I was like, yeah, but like logically there's all these great things, but there were some really major things. And then it just basically came down to the people we were dealing with. I was like, I'm not doing that. And so he came in and I was like, I don't think we should do this. And he's like, oh my God, thank you. I don't either. And I was like, right? Like, and I was so afraid that he was going to be like, you're shattering my dreams. What do you mean? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, I feel that way too. Right. And I literally, like, I can create that sensation in my gut right now. Cause I was like, we can't do this. This is going to be the death of our business. This is not a good idea. It doesn't matter how far we're into it. Like, we can't do this. And we made that decision. It was a great decision on our part, like, especially, like, if you know that building, they're actually tearing that whole thing down. The city bought it. Like, we would have been out of business. But there were so many red flags that we chose to ignore. So look at your life, like Brandon said, look at your life, like, where have you ignored the red flags and then been like, oh, yeah, they were there, right? Like, for relationships, it's a huge one. I mean, I was talking to one of my clients last night about that, of like, just kept, a long time ago, we were like diving into our past. I was like, I just kept dating the same guys. And it was like, there should have been red flags, but I just kept doing it. And I was like, well, there was a reason. Like, you were chasing something that needed to be met more than those red flags, right? But when we actually can be in our bodies and trust ourselves, then we can listen to our intuition, and life gets so much easier, right? Like my coach always says, you know, I'm way smarter when I don't think about things, and it's true, right? If you can really trust that and be like, no, this is exactly where I'm supposed to go, and just lean into it and start to do that on little things, you'll start to trust yourself and be like, wow, this really is right. Like, my brain is just trying to keep me safe, and that's where all my fear lives. Good.
Yep, I think that
All right.
zigs and zag today, but I think we're good.
All right, guys. So hopefully I wasn't too crazy. I know it's a little chaotic, but I hope you guys are doing well. We'll be back tomorrow. Yep, here come our kids. All right, guys. We'll talk to you guys soon.